All right, welcome to part two of the guide. In this part, we're gonna assume that you have unlocked quality in the tech tree, and now you're wondering, well, how do I get quality? I want to get quality items. How do I do it? And we're gonna start with possible ways in which people think about how to start getting quality. And we're gonna talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each approach, and through getting through them, we'll also figure out better ways to get quality and eventually reach an understanding of what is the best way to get quality. And the main goal here is to explain why some approaches have issues and to get an understanding of why the approaches that I go through in part four are actually the best approaches, or, one of the least wasteful approaches. So the first thing someone might do is quite simple. Well, I'm just gonna go into the items menu and I'm gonna decide what I want to build. What do I want at quality? And I'm just gonna pick a thing that is just because it's very simple to craft, steel chest. I just want chests with higher capacity. So the first thing someone might do is just put down an assembler, put some quality modules in it, and just craft a bunch of chests. And eventually you'll start getting some quality chests. Now the best thing about this approach is that it is the simplest. Whatever you want to craft, just bring in the ingredients, put some quality modules in the machine, and just craft them. And eventually you'll get some quality items. Now the problems with this approach is, well, first of all, if we go to the maths, we're in this category. So the odds are pretty good if we just want uncommon. But if we want to go up to legendary, that's 1 in 10,000. For every 10,000 chests that we craft, we'll get one legendary. And of course, you can get even better quality modules, but even then, the odds are 1 to 4,000. And I haven't proven this to you yet, but this is the worst way to do quality, actually. And there may be some things that may surprise you that they're actually better than this, which intuitively you might think that they wouldn't be, but they actually are better. So that's the first issue. But if you want to just get uncommon quality items, it's not that bad at all, especially when you get even better quality modules. Now you have almost, more than 20% chance to get an uncommon quality item. So if you want something simple and easy, you might as well do it this way, especially if you don't need that many quality items. If you needed like 10 uncommon quality chests, you might as well do this. So what are some other issues? Okay, as you can see, this is crafting now, and it keeps going and keeps going. And you might say, well, my base doesn't need like thousands of steel chests, right? Let's say my base has 100, 200, maybe 1,000 steel chests, which is a lot. All right, so you might want to limit it like this. So what's the problem that's going to happen is, well, first of all, okay, I have a bunch of steel chests that are normal now, but my base already has normal quality steel chests. I want uncommon quality steel chests. So you might take them and use them in your base. And if we speed up time, what's going to end up happening is, well, now it's stuck, right? So it actually produced an uncommon steel chest, but there's nowhere to place it. So you might say, well, what do I do now? I can extend this, and but this hasn't really solved the issue because eventually the same thing is going to happen. And even if you manage to get enough uncommon steel chests through this method, then you will want to upgrade to rarer quality and then to epic. I can tell you now, if you want 100 epic steel chests, this storage won't be enough. So, I mean, you can keep expanding the storage, but I don't know how many people like this solution. And if you do this for every item, that's feels like quite wasteful and not a very elegant solution. So you may start thinking, well, this isn't working very well. I'm getting a lot of chests that I don't need, and that's quite wasteful as well, and the odds aren't really in my favor. I mean, you don't know that yet, but I'm just telling you, trust me for now. So you might think, well, it's quality. Maybe I need maybe I need a base for every type of quality. Like, I have a base for my normal quality items. Maybe I need to build another base for uncommon, and then, I send uncommon quality ore, and then it gets turned to uncommon quality plates, and, I separate it like that. So you may end up having, something like this, where in your miners, you put some quality modules, and then they start giving you ore of various qualities. So you split the ore, you know, in some way, whatever way you want. What I've done here is split this way, but it's up to you what you do. And then you could do various things. You could take each ore and send it to a different base completely. But here what I've done is it moves down and goes to these electric furnaces. Now, in these electric furnaces, I have quality modules again, except of course for the legendary ore, which I have productivity. And then they give me, quality plates. Now, the good thing so far is we haven't wasted any material, like everything is being used, at least eventually. And the other good thing is I'm using quality modules here, so my output from the big mining drill is this. But then when I go to my electric furnaces, then my input will be this, but in this direction. So my output is going to be a lot better. There is kind of a compounding element when you have items go through quality modules over and over again. So if I'm starting with, say, 100, normal quality ore that hasn't been extracted from the mining drill yet, this is what I'm going to get after the mining drill. And then I'm going to get another combination that has even higher, it's still the same stuff, but I'm improving the quality at each step on average. So the good thing is the more steps you take it through, the higher the quality on average. And that means that mathematically, by the time you get to your end products, you will build a lot more higher quality steel chests. Because unlike in this scenario, you are only applying quality once. So the quality iron plates are, again, you can put them all together, a nice little tip, and then separate them. Instead of separating the output, each output on its own, and then somehow joining it, you can just join it all and then separate it. And then they're sent to create gears. All right. And now I have a bus that has 5 lanes and another 5 lanes, and I only have 2 items. And then I go over here and I'm crafting, well, something that you probably won't care to craft at higher quality, but just because it's a simple recipe, I'm getting better researchers. And if you look at it, you can also already see how the chances are much better, right? If you compare this to the chest here, we have like 500. Although I took some I took some on me, but if you compare that to the items in here, you can see, now it's 1 to 3. Like for every 3 normal, I have 1 uncommon. So the odds definitely improve the further down the chain you go. So that means, well, okay, this way maybe I can get the stuff that I actually care about. I'll get decent quality fairly quickly. I don't need to waste a lot of steel to get items that I'm not going to use that much. This approach probably has the most issues. The positive is at least in theory, it's the least wasteful when it comes to the input materials. Assuming you're okay with everything slowing down to a crawl. Okay, so one of the big issues is, first of all, you're using quality modules. So you're not using productivity modules. So you're missing out, first of all, on the productivity itself. But secondly, you're missing out on speed modules. So this means that I'm gonna need a lot more modules, a lot more machines. So already that's kind of a negative. My base will be, not only is it increased in complexity by the different qualities, it's a lot bigger just because I had to use a lot more machines. Okay. Another issue is that I need to have the correct ratio of machines at all times. Otherwise, this will happen. It will clog up because the normal quality machine isn't working fast enough. So in this case, it's kind of easy because I can go back to the table and say, well, for every 90 electric furnaces that are going to take in the normal ore, I need 9 to process the uncommon and 0.9 for the rare, and so on and so forth. So kind of easy to figure out, but still, what is that blueprint going to look like? That's going to be weird. Now, of course, when it comes to electric furnaces, you don't really have to do that because they'll take in any ore and do the thing. You would only really need to separate the one for legendary because you wouldn't want to have quality modules in it. But when it comes to gears, how are you gonna do it? Of course, you can use some circuitry to change the recipe depending on the ore, but even that is somewhat complex. But that could be one way to kind of address this issue. So what's the biggest issue though? Well, the complexity, right? You have to do this at every step. And imagine doing this for every single item. Every single item. Right? You literally need to do this with pretty much every single item, either using circuitry to change the recipes or balancing how many assembling machines you have at each step. So it's pretty complex, and really it's not easy to solve the issue of the blockage. At the end of the day, like even if your machines are perfectly balanced for the input that they take in, which is not easy at all because iron plates, you don't just need at iron gears, you need them at iron gears, you also need them here, you need them in various places, right? But the issue is, okay, let's say you have a bunch of normal iron ore and your base has processed everything and you've gotten normal quality of everything you want. Eventually, still, the normal quality ingredients are gonna clog up the whole system because at the end of the day, you have an output here. In this case, it's gonna fill up with normal quality burner inserters, and when it fills up with normal quality burner inserters, then this will stop working because this will be clogged up, and then this will stop working, and then the mining machine will stop working. So you still have the issue of the storage, but now it's a lot more complex. And of course, you can try to solve it in various ways. You can say, well, so you could have something like this, where anything that is too high will be turned into a filter. And so once the burn inserters go over 400 of any type, then they'll be sent away. Cool, maybe this way we can unclog the system. Well, again, you're just passing off the problem to somewhere else. And, still the normal burn inserters are kind of a waste, right? So at the end of the day, there's a number of issues that you haven't solved, but by far the biggest one is the complexity. And this is, I think this is where, in the minds of people, um, I think this is the big issue about quality that makes it feel very overwhelming or daunting for some people because they think they vaguely in their minds they might think this is the actual solution that you're supposed to do. And it makes sense. Like, okay, I'm getting quality. When you first put down quality somewhere, you're like, well, I'm getting these 5 quality items, so I need to handle them, right? It would be a waste to throw them away or something. But this is a very, very complex system. I don't even know if someone can make it work, and at least in terms of wastefulness, it is less wasteful. But I'm not even sure I believe that because you're missing out on productivity. Until you go to legendary quality, you're just missing out on productivity. So I think this is the most complex solution. I think it's probably the worst solution, mainly for that reason. If it weren't for the productivity, I could say, well, it is not wasteful. You're not wasting anything technically until you do something like this. So, maybe it would be better in that case, but because you're missing out on productivity, maybe it is better to have productivity here, and then, have electric furnaces again that turn into steel, and then just do that. Maybe this is cheaper in terms of how much ore from here you're wasting, and you would have less machines to worry about, and it's logistically a much easier problem to handle. Yeah. All right. So you may think, well, okay, this solution is too complex. I don't even know if it's better. Um, Maybe I'll just go back to this and see if I can do something better. And yeah, I did spoil this in part 1, but you can use the recycler. And maybe we can set this inserter to get rid of anything that is of normal quality. So then the recycler gives us back more steel, and we can get rid of this steel. We can put it in here, and then we'll see what we do with it. But at least this frees us from the issue of the normal quality steel chest. So now, okay, cool. Once I have enough uncommon quality steel chests, and I can limit it like this now, right? I don't need to build too many for no reason. So once my base is full of uncommon quality steel chests as well, then maybe I can change the filter here and say, well, anything that is below or equal to uncommon, get rid of it too. I don't need the circuit. And then I'll be able to fill up my base with rare. And once it's full of rare, then I will change the filter again. So at least now we've dealt with the storage issue. Now, of course, we are getting back steel here. And it is a bit of a question, well, what do I do with this steel? Well, maybe you use it somewhere else in your base, But perhaps an obvious thing to do is, well, what if I just bring it back here and use it again? Cool. So as you see now with the recycler, we had this normal quality steel chest, which we weren't really using anyway. So we solved the problem of the storage, but also we're getting back some materials which we can use to make, to roll the dice again. So what's the benefit of this? Not only did we solve the storage problem, but since we're getting back 25% of the ingredients, essentially this means that instead of we can make 25% more steel. So now instead of making a steel box once every 10,000, we're actually getting one every 0.0125, right? But now that has to do with the ingredients that we start with. The actual sense hasn't changed here. It's just that we're essentially wasting less steel that came from, somewhere else. So, okay, that's pretty nice. So we solved the problem and increased our probabilities, really. Okay. So the next thing, which is big and important, is, well, if I'm destroying them anyway, why not just add quality modules here too? And as you can see now, we're getting various qualities of steel plate. All right, well, that's nice. Now we're also getting, now we're improving the quality of the steel plates too. Maybe we should use these. And the other way, which I showed, that you can get quality is to just do this. But now we have to kind of figure out what we're gonna do with this output, right? All right, and I'm back. So I just move things around. So this is where we start with the steel chest that goes in here, and then we craft it and put it in here. Actually, I don't need this anymore. And yeah. So obviously, before we didn't have the quality modules here. Now, clearly adding the quality modules, that's even better, right? So we're not quite sure what the odds are, so we went from 0.01 to 0.0125. And this should be even better because now we're not just getting back items of normal quality, or ingredients rather, but of all types of quality. All right, so how are we handling them? Well, we just placing them on each machine. We have one machine for each quality now, and there's no point having quality modules in the legendary one. And we'll gather a bunch of, the correct quality for each one. And yeah, slowly but surely, this recycler is gonna let me craft some extra better quality chests. Cool, so this improves my odds even further. And in part 3, we will calculate these odds exactly. So don't worry about that for now. For now, just trust me that this is way, way, way better than what we had before. The next thing you might think of is, all right, well, this is nice, but wow, do I really need to do this for every single item? And then there are also some other issues. There are some items which actually recycle onto themselves. And this is kind of a bigger spoiler, but eventually you're going to get the biolab. And this is one that you will want to get at a higher quality. But when you place a biolab in a recycler, it actually returns the biolab. Oops. If we speed up a little bit, and you can see return the biolab. So this is an important concept that you need to grasp. If the recycler returns the item itself, then we cannot craft the item again here, right? And I will demonstrate this with another thing you may think of. Well, instead of having something like this for every single item, because look, I need to do it with like what, 20, 30 recipes in here, and then another 20, 30 recipes here, and then, another 10, 20, I don't even know how many recipes here, and a few here, and maybe a couple in here. That's a lot. What if I go some other way, I know now how to deal with the problem of the storage, and I also can use some quality modules in here. Okay, nice. What if I just do the same thing, but with the basics? What if I do it with coal, with stone, with iron ore, and with all the most basic ingredients? And then, I'll just do it until I get legendary iron ore. And then I will just use that legendary iron ore directly and make legendary iron plates and legendary steel and all that. And I'll just use that, And this is kind of what I have here, where The mining drill is making iron, it's putting in this box, and then any of it that isn't legendary, we just send it to the recycler. Now, of course, this isn't fast enough, but I'm just talking about the principle here. And once in a while, we're gonna get some legendary iron, and it will be passed on to the electric furnace, and now it's a lot simpler. It's like having a normal base. The only difference is you select the legendary recipe at every state. And I have one legendary plate here. I don't know how long this has been running, but we have one legendary plate. Cool. So, okay, so there's a couple issues here. First of all, well, I haven't put any quality modules here, so let's add them. So this should increase our chances, right? So that's good. So what are the problems with this approach? Well, I can tell you right now that here is the problem. Here I am, rolling the dice once, and I'm not wasting anything. I just have a 10% chance of quality. Now it gets put in here, but then it goes to the recycler. So now I'm losing 75% of it. And then I'm rolling the dice again with these modules. So, maybe it increase the quality. Okay, let's say this gave me some normal iron. So it gets sent over here. It gets destroyed, but let's say it didn't get destroyed and it went to uncommon. But we need to put it back here and then repeat and repeat and repeat. So this means that for every iron ore that this machine gives us, at every step of the way, except the first one, right? At every step of the way, there's a 75% chance it will get destroyed before it becomes legendary. And there is a 10% chance that will improve its quality. So in this case, we roll the dice once with no loss, and every other time we roll it with a 75% loss. And this is what happens when the recycler gives back the item that it recycles. And this is the case with biolabs. Whereas back in this case, you're recycling and you're getting back steel. So when this is what happens, actually, you're rolling the dice with no loss, then you're rolling them with loss, 75% loss. Then, no matter where they go, you're rolling them again with no loss, and then again with loss. So instead of rolling them only once with no loss of items, and then you lose items every time, 75% every time you roll the dice, here it alternates. Here at every step of the way, everything that gets recycled, it gets one extra roll because before you lose 75% of it. And then you get the second roll. Simply from that, it's blatantly obvious that it's much better to do quality with items that when they get recycled, they give back their ingredients and not the item themselves. So this is the main issue with an approach like this. Now, I will say there are benefits to this approach. The approach is very, very, very simple. You have your mining machines and they just give you ore, you put quality in them, and then you process the ore with recyclers with quality until it becomes legendary, and then you send it to your legendary base, which is the same as a normal base. You just change the recipes. And you need to do this with, there's a number of them. You need to do it with coal, stone, iron, copper, uranium, sulfur, and then there is a bunch more: calcite, tungsten, holming plate. You can't do it with holming more because it gets turned into a fluid. On gleba with, you can do it with gelinat if you want, and yumako. And then I think a lithium plate, I'm not sure, but no, there's about 20 of them. But then that's it. Like, it's very simple. The approach is the same every time. This is it. It doesn't need anything particularly complex in terms of blueprints. So what's the problem with this approach is exactly what I mentioned. This is a lot more wasteful than this case, where the recycler gives back the ingredients rather than the item itself. And the problem is all of these most basic items that you need, they all return the item itself in every single case. And I will tell you now, the odds of getting legendary in this case is much, much lower than in this case. So you're wasting a lot more, you're wasting a lot more ore here, at least an order of magnitude more versus this case, where you, again, if you just get normal ore here, you can get the productivity bonuses anyway, and then do the quality over here. You've gotten your productivity bonuses on your steel already, and not to mention you can use the foundry, which you wouldn't be able to if you wanted to do quality with mining ore, because then you would have to use the electric furnace. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so this is a much less wasteful method, but I have to do it with every item in here, and that's kind of an issue. Is there anything better I can do? And the answer is yes. And to demonstrate that, we'll need to make the next logical leap here. What if we don't get ore itself? What if we get some other materials, and then we can still keep the recipes to a low number, and I don't have to make this for, every single item. I don't need to make this like 50 times. I just need to make some intermediate products, maybe, 5, 10, 20, and the rest I will just craft directly. We can also use productivity modules in this case. So let's imagine the same scenario, but instead we're crafting, what should we craft? Iron gear wheels. Okay, so in this case, cool. Now I have the same essential setup. I am using quality models again. Well, already there is an advantage that I can use productivity models here. So just from that, I've already doubled my chances of getting legendary. And then even though I can't craft, maybe the end product directly, I can always keep using productivity the further down the production chain we go with these legendary quality gears. And eventually I will get to craft the legendary items directly. Let's say the inserters. I'll have more iron gears because of this productivity. So already, compared to something like this, we have doubled our chances. Okay, that makes sense. What about somewhere here? What if we use productivity here? We cannot use any productivity in the recycler. It does not allow for productivity. So what if we use productivity in these machines? Well, does that make sense? Okay, well, what does that mean? We would get more items, but we would not get a chance at increasing their quality. I mean, isn't it better to just try to increase the quality and then get productivity only at the end? And there is no easy answer here. What I will say is it's best to think of extremes. So if I get productivity, this means that let's say I have productivity in this machine. When this machine crafts, if it crafts a normal or an uncommon quality gear, and then these are recycled, this can give me some uncommon quality iron, which can be used here. Well, then this machine is gonna craft more uncommon quality gears for sure. And that means, okay, I didn't get a chance to roll, I didn't get a chance to increase the quality, but in the recycler, I get more chances. I get to roll the dice more than once, but I miss out on the chance to roll the dice here. And an easy way to see like whether this is worth it, or at least whether there is, some kind of balance is worth it. And let's take it to the extreme. Imagine you have 300% productivity here. So that means for, instead of crafting 1 iron gear, I'm crafting 4. If I craft 4 and they go to the recycler, well, guess what? I get to keep the ingredients for 1. So the 4 gears turn to 1 because you lose the 3 of them, 75%. And that 1 gear, because you get the ingredients instead, turns to 2 uncommon iron plates, or higher because of the quality. Well, if they turn to uncommon, then I go back here and, just make another 4 and try again. So once you get to 300% extra productivity, this means that there's no way, like, if I get uncommon, then this loop will keep happening until I get higher quality. And once I get higher quality, then they will go here. But then if I have 300% productivity here as well, well, then the same thing happens. This cycle will keep happening non-stop with no extra ingredients, because you go from the ingredients for 1 gear to 4 gears. It gets recycled back to 1 gear, which turns into ingredients again, the equivalent for 1 gear, which is 2 plates. And then the cycle keeps happening, and again, all the way to the very end. Okay, so clearly, actually, this is perfect. This means that I can start with, if I start with some normal ingredients, then this loop will keep happening until the recycler gives me better ingredients. If I start here, if I imagine that I have 300% productivity here, and I just start with 2 iron plates, then, I'm gonna get back to iron plates again of some type of quality. And this will keep happening until it goes further and further, until eventually the 2 iron plates are legendary. And at this point, the 2 iron plates turn to 4 legendary iron gears. So we started with normal ingredients for 1 gear, right? Just 2 normal iron plates, and we ended up with 4 legendary gears. Well, this is the least wasteful method. And I'm gonna tell you now, this is the best way to get legendary items. So clearly, the most basic thing that this teaches us is that, well, clearly there's value in productivity. Like if I get it all the way to 300%, there's no way you could do something better. And by the way, why not go above 300% productivity? The developers limited it exactly because of this reason. Not because of quality, but because if you go beyond 300% productivity, then you could recycle and you would just get items out of nowhere. Because if you had 400% productivity, or let's say 900% productivity, so for 1 item you would get 10, then you will get 2.5. So you start with 1, and now you have 2.5 items here. And for no actual iron plates coming from somewhere else, this loop will just make infinite items on its own. So that's why there is a limit, 300% productivity for anything that can go into a recycler. I think there's only research can go above that, and mining productivity, I think those are the only 2 that can go above that. Anyway, so now not only have we proven that, okay, productivity clearly, when taken to extreme, has value, it is also the best possible approach. There is literally no waste. You're crafting legendaries, at least eventually, with the highest possible probability, with the highest possible productivity from just normal plates. All of this, except for the start and over here, everything else is just kind of a buffer that just requires some, eventually through probabilities, eventually you will get lucky enough and the 2 original iron plates will turn into 4 legendary gears. So we found the best solution. But secondly, we realized productivity clearly has value. But okay, you say, well, you can't really get 300% productivity, right? So where is the balance? And that's basically what I talk about in my next video, is that, well, I don't know where the balance is, honestly. I can't just figure it out through, these little toy examples that I've made. But that's why I've written some programming code where basically it just simulates all the possible scenarios, and obviously this is done with legendary modules. Actually, I can just do that. And legendary modules in the recycler. And then it just checks, what if I have this combination of modules? What if I have this combination? Or this combination? Or this combination? Or this combination? So there are 4 choices here, another 4 here, another 4, and another 4. Here you only use productivity or nothing. So it's 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, that's 256 possible combinations. So that's why it does. It runs all of those 256 simulations, and then it just checks, in which case did I get the most legendaries for my input, for the input materials. So through those simulations, I can figure out the best combination of modules, and I can also compare, what if I have something like this versus something like this? What are the odds versus something like this? Or, something even simpler, like maybe I have just this. So stay tuned for part 3. Well, I will explain my code first, which might not interest you some, but you can skip ahead in the video. And then we can go through the results and everything that we talked about now. We can see the actual calculations and the results and what are the probabilities and what can you do in each case and why eventually we'll decide that actually going for some of these intermediate materials as much as we can is actually the best scenario. So yeah, see you in part 3.